is Alex Mares. Alongside me is Albert Cita. And look who's back after a month-long absence from the show.
I was on vacation, Disney
Guillermo
World.
Cita. Disney World, is that where you're at?
Well, I was the last 2 weeks. The week before that, I was in Lancaster with my soccer tournament. So unfortunately, I couldn't be here.
Yeah, living life as more as I can say, right?
But just like we said in the other show, we're like the WWE. We keep on the show must go on.
You got a little emotional?
Yeah.
Your brother's back. You happy to see your brother? Is that what it is?
It was a deep thing. I know for real. That came out of nowhere.
Calm down, Michael
I
Cole.
like the little brotherly love there. Today's show is brought to you by a fine line of sponsors. First of all, Rocking Green eco-friendly cleaning products. 5 Rounds clothing line, where I'm sporting today. You guys like the 5 Round MMA USA shirt?
I was sporting mine the other couple of podcasts ago.
Yep, fine
And
line.
I have my Celtic soccer.
We don't do plug-ins here.
Oh,
Sorry.
And of course, the
You
RMA
did
Foundation.
WWE plug-in.
The RMA Foundation, so Ravishing Rick Rude shirt. The RMA Foundation Redemption Martial Arts. Today's show, we're going to talk about the big, heavy-hitting subject, PEDs. We're an MMA show. We got to, at least one of these days, tackle the thing, right?
Fortunately, I did some PEDs, PEDs this morning. So I'm feeling good.
And also, I want to talk about maybe the UFC overcompensating to the fans. So, but first of all, let's talk about the PEDs, the war against PEDs, the war on drugs. Say no to drugs.
Yeah, so
Dare.
the UFC had this big old press conference, and they showed it on Fox Sports 1, where they have the contract with.
Was it on ESPN?
No. Was it on Channel 4, Channel 11, any of the
CNN
any highlights?
CNN.
No. It was just breaking news on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even finish the press conference because they had to return to their scheduled programming.
like a regional college basketball.
Yeah. So
It was Joe Silva, right?
Yeah.
I saw like little clips of it.
Before we get to the PED thing.
On the airplane, right? Just so you guys know, you can actually watch Fox Sports 1.
Oh, really? On the airplane?
On the airplane.
So before we get to the PED, the UFC's kind of PED, I want to talk to Anderson Silva, who's in the middle of this PED scandal, right? Because it's kind of weird how it went from John Jones and drugs to Anderson Silva and PEDs, which he's more of a pariah now, isn't he? Like, oh, you did cocaine, oh, that's a problem. You did PEDs, how dare you? So Anderson Silva finally released a statement via Instagram. It's kind of weird. It was a great picture.
Didn't he say, I don't know what to apologize?
It was kind of him training. It was an awesome picture, but so here's kind of a snippet of what he said. Anderson Silva on his PED failures, whatever. I do not know what to apologize for because I'm still waiting for the results and analysis from the specialists that are working to reveal the truth. Everything I took since my injury are being analyzed. I look for the truth as much as all those who were surprised with the results. I always play clean. I was never a cheater. In 18 years of my career, I never had any problems with exams. I want to say the time it takes to destroy a reputation is infinitely less than it is taken to build it. I am one who is the most eager to settle this situation. So Guillermo, we've heard you from a while. Anderson Silva PEDs.
So this is the first time I hear this, to be honest. I heard the statement before that saying that he didn't do anything whatsoever. Now it's starting to sound like he did do something, but he didn't know what was going into his body because of the injury. So now, not only, at first he was like, denial. He's like, well, now I want to know what I tested positive for. Yeah. What caused me to test positive for? So that's what it sounded like to me. So it sounds like he didn't know what was going into his system. He had to trust in his doctors, and just that one slip up because he didn't know what was going into his system. He feels like he made a mistake.
I think the way from hearing different fighters and how they say it to me kind of breaks down. You're into 2 categories. One, you're blatantly cheating. Because,
here's a needle, stick it in my butt type of thing. Yeah. That's a crude example.
You're either in that category or you're in the category where it's like, look, listen, I told my doctor I suffer from this, and this, and I have this, and that. Give me whatever. And it wasn't a thing about they didn't know if it was legal or not. They're like, look, my doctor gave it to me. I'm going to turn a blind eye. He said it made me better.
Justin said the best. I mean, when you go to a doctor and you tell him your injuries or your hurt,
that's what I'm saying.
Justin said straight up, doctors will prescribe you what will help you.
Yeah.
They don't care.
They're not going to do any malpractice and give you stuff that's not going to help you. Of course it's going to help you. It's just you got to do the research. Is this a performance enhancing drug?
And I just think those fighters are in that category. Yeah. Don't bother to do the research.
Well,
and when you talk about full body contact, I mean, like I can just imagine how sore these guys are after fights.
But the training.
Yeah, the training alone. Again,
I know you guys don't like it, I always bring up wrestling, but people always talk about like there's like a drug problem in wrestling, but in reality, it's painkillers, man. I mean, those guys that are breaking their backs, stuff like that. And it's to use these other type of form of drugs to kind of
Well, I remember back when baseball was trying to clean up their act. Well, it's a constant battle.
It's still an ongoing.
Yeah,
process.
But they said that they would hand out papers to all the players saying, "Hey, this is what."
Yeah, it's still an ongoing process.
This is what the type of drugs are banned on our ban list. But I guess some say, "Oh, well." They had the paper, but a lot of them weren't in English, or they were in English. So there's like Latin players, a lot of Korean players. That's why we saw a lot of influx of players who failed were all Latin players because they gave me a list. I don't know what these words are. So maybe should the UFC hand over each fighter a list? And this is what you cannot take.
I think so, especially with the injuries that they deal with. They need to recover because they gotta. I mean, they only get paid. There's very few that get paid aside from fighting. But they get paid per fight, so they have to fight. And if they're not in the main events, they're not getting paychecks. So that's how I see it. They're going to go to the doctor and say, hey, my shoulder is killing me. Give me something that'll take care of this so I can fight in 3 months. And I mean, they don't know what's going into the system. They just told the doctor. Doctor said, here, this is good. This will help you out.
But I think the issue is more difficult than that because I think as technology gets better, so does the medical field gets more complicated. I mean, they be making stuff like before it used to be as simple as that needle stuff. I mean, I heard you can get it's like those Listerine things and just put it in your tongue, little strips, and that's. I mean, it's getting so people are making new strands.
Didn't Ray Lewis get in trouble for some elk spray?
Elk
spray of his tongue.
See what I mean?
No, but my point is that they're not doing it to get faster, to get stronger. They're doing
for recovery.
Well, depending on who you ask.
But no, you guys were talking about two different groups. I think the group that we're talking about right now at this point is the ones that are injured. And no, I'm not trying to get an advantage over it. I'm just trying to deal with this injury.
Yeah, and you have some fighters too who are also taking unhealthy diuretics as well to try and cut weight. And so that's kind of I think a female fighter just got caught recently for a banned diuretic substance that she's trying to make weight, and that she got suspended too. I forgot the name, but yeah. So it is maybe I think Ronda Rousey said, "Oh, you're bringing an extra weapon into the ring." I think it goes for the people. Okay, this is what shoot me up. I want to get bigger. I want to get faster. I want to get stronger. But as opposed to I need to heal up so I can go make the money, right?
Yeah.
So there is the two type of things.
I mean. Seth Rollins puts on his Twitter that he uses pro genetics for recovery, and I mean he wrestles at least 5 times a week. I'm just saying.
Okay,
I've worked for him, and that's not illegal.
Back to MMA. Yeah, I just think as the fighters, they want to get back into the cage, but they got to do research too. Yeah, and that's what it really comes down to.
So now I want to jump to that because you talk about getting paid and the risk versus rewards, with a term Dana White used. The UFC had that big old giant press conference. It's exclusively on Fox Sports. So now the UFC
breaking news.
Yeah, UFC will implement a random drug testing for fighters under contract who are in out of competition starting July 1st. Isn't that kind of coincide with the Reebok deal kicking in July?
Yeah, the Reebok deal.
Is that part of the Reebok deal?
I guess they're like, well, if we're gonna start everything new, might as well start it that day. Come on, guys. Let's not mix things up now.
So the UFC will look to implement some WADA WADA standards when it comes to testing and punishment. WADA currently has a 4-year ban on some of their positive tests, but the UFC is kind of leaning towards a 2-year ban, if anything. So, and according to Lorenzo Fertitta, this is a quote from him: "For the good of the sport, the integrity, we are trying to do here what we needed to address the issue. We may not be training, but someone may show up to take a random sample." So, Guillermo, do you like this?
Yeah, it's about time. We got to take a little bit more serious.
Can Cowboy Cerrone just be on his horse and all of a sudden one day the guys come to his ranch and, hey, we're going to drug test you? Is that what it is?
For other sports, they do it. I mean, you have off-season testing all the time.
Can Phil Davis be surfing in San Diego and say, hey, Phil, come over here. We're going to drug test you.
I think that's perfectly fine.
I think as long as you're a fighter under contract, they should feel free to take a test whenever.
Yeah, the only question is, like you talk about,
cheating is cheating, no matter when,
like
if you're surfing or not.
Vitor Belfort taking what's it called? HGH. I mean, is there going to be medical exemption list saying because of this injury? Because you think about Anderson Silva, because that's who it all circles around with. He broke his bone. Come on, how can you recover from that less than a year?
At his age too, right?
Yeah, at his age, without any medical help.
Dana White also tried to put an argument towards that, saying look, if you can't fight fair, even and you need that kind of stuff, then you shouldn't be fighting at all.
The other thing is Dana White shouldn't be pushing these guys to come out.
Yeah, then why is he offering 10 fight contracts to a man who's 37 years old?
Yeah.
So I feel like Anderson Silva felt pressure, and I feel some of these fighters feel pressured now, not only from money standpoint, but from the promotion standpoint. Like, hey, we need you guys. We need the star power. We need people. We're losing buys on our pay-per-view. We need you guys to be on the cards.
Yeah.
So
do you like the 2-year ban?
Yeah, I like it. I think what does MLB have? Like one time it's like 1 year,
50 games.
Yeah, 50 games.
And the second offense is like not a whole season.
And then and the third is like lifetime ban or something like that.
Yeah.
I just think they just need to be consistent. That's what it really comes down to. You can't just pick and choose. Okay.
Yeah, if they say it's a 2-year ban, it doesn't matter if it's Jumbo and Jones
you can't fire Matt Riddle and then just have Nick Diaz serve a suspension. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or Anderson Silva will just
serve a suspension, but we'll fire.
None of this all will his doctor kind of accidentally put it. No, he got caught 2 years. We'll see you in 2 years, bro.
Yeah. So you like that?
I like it. I think 2 years is a good time for a punishment because I don't think a fighter loses too much in 2 years. Yeah, I know that's a long span, but for a fighter, I think he can still rebound from 2 years, and it's enough time for him to get clean and
he's crazy.
Dominic Cruz lost 2 years.
The more I think about it, but Dominic Cruz was still getting paid to be an analyst. Yeah. These guys don't get paid. Now that I think about it more, 2 years is way too much. Way too much. If you're a first-time offense, it should be about maybe 8 months.
Not right now. It's 9 months, and
8, 9 months. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's about right. But I mean, like, if your first time offense 2 years, you're talking about 2 years without a paycheck for some of these guys that don't have side contracts.
On top of that, they're trying to make a statement. That's why I don't think you guys understand that they're trying to get rid of this palm now, not later.
Well, July 1st.
July 1st. So I think by putting that 2-year ban, it kind of scares more fighters into actually trying to. If this really is your main source of income, you'd be like, no, there's no way I can cheat because I'm gonna lose 2 years of good income.
Let's take Anderson Silva. You go to the doctor, he prescribes you something that you didn't do your research on. Now you have a 2-year ban on him, and now
you do your research now.
Yeah.
Well, I see that, but even MLB does like 50 games first. Hey, this is a harsh warning.
How clean is MLB right now?
Still constantly being cleaned up, but I guess looks like July 1st is going to enter the new era of UFC for the uniform starting July. The new PED testing starts in July, so we'll see what else kind of changes. And we'll see what kind of injuries also happen as well, too. Like how many we think it's bad now. Who knows? It might be even worse now. Starting July 1st, how many cars get shuffling around. But I think it's going to be an ever-longing topic we're discussing in the MMA world. If you're part of the MMA community, you used to talk about PEDs, man. It's going to be insane. Just like baseball now. I think steroids and is a part of the daily conversation for baseball. So that is it. Stick around. I want to talk about UFC, the UFC's pay-per-view plan, and are they overcompensating for the fans, or they're trying to make up to say, hey guys, we're sorry. So here's this beautiful gem of a card that proposed to happen. So stick around, guys.
Please visit FiveRoundMMA.com on our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. FiveRoundMMA.com.
Thank you for sticking around. The big news, other than the PED enforcement agency that the UFC is going to implement, was actually going to be involved in the octagon. UFC 187 was announced. A huge lineup was Memorial Day weekend. John Jones versus Anthony Johnson, Chris Weidman versus Vitor Belfort, Donald Cerrone versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Travis Browne versus Andrei Arlovski, and Joseph Benavidez versus John Moraga. It was just like I think an all-star kind of lineup for the pay-per-view, and I thought. Initial reaction was like, "Oh, this card's amazing." Was your kind of reaction to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, all these guys could main event their own card. I mean, maybe not a pay per view, but maybe their own fight card.
So, like, after the initial excitement wore off, like, wait a minute, this is kind of weird. Something's up. Like, this is a really good card for like a pay per view. And they kind of thinking like, wait a minute, wasn't 2 title fights? Wasn't UFC 184 to have 2 title fights? But then Weidman got pushed off. And I thought there's a lot of 2 title fights, and just alone in 2014, the last one, UFC 181, had 2 title bouts, welterweight and light heavyweight, which is Johnny Hendricks and Robbie Lawler, and then Gilbert Melendez and Anthony Pettis. Then also UFC 175 had 2 title bouts, middleweight and women's bantamweight. And UFC 169 had the featherweight and bantamweight. That was on 2014. I did some more research, and 2015 alone, there's I think UFC 187, UFC 184 had 2 title fights scheduled, but UFC 185, 186, and 189 all have 2 title fights scheduled on the pay-per-view cards. So is this UFC's plan now for pay-per-views? 2 title bouts every time?
I know we were talking about a little bit before the podcast even started, but now I started thinking of a little bit. I think the route should be that everybody's goal should be to be on the pay-per-view card. Mm-hmm. So let's stack it up, my point of view. And I think maybe the UFC is going that and use the fight cards to these up and coming guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they need to have content in FS1. So let's just, I'm tired of just sitting there for one fight.
Yeah.
Let's put those good fights into one big pay-per-view and have these guys work their way to get to these pay-per-view cards.
Starting from last year, we've been saying that these been watered down cards.
Yeah.
And especially the pay-per-views, I don't know what they're trying to sell by just giving us a match here, match there. And I think now they're trying to see, like, you know what? The pay-per-view game is pretty much our game. If you really think about it,
now the WWE
with the Mayweather Pacquiao fight made, I think after that they're gonna own that pay-per-view game, and I think they really want to stack up those numbers. And I think the good formula here is to have one good main event, a bunch of up and coming fighters for their free fights.
Yeah.
And then the pay-per-view, you just gotta do this stackness here. I mean,
well, I think
but I do want to get to one thing though.
With me.
The whole John Jones thing. I think a lot of people had a bad taste in their mouth after the whole cocaine thing. And I really thought that they're like, you know what? I think a lot of people are going to try to fight us against John Jones.
Are going to buy a John Jones
and they're like, dude, we're in a stack of cards so much.
The All-American Chris Weidman.
You have no...
everybody's favorite cowboy, Donald Cerrone.
Yeah, there is no way that you would care that John Jones is on the card.
Everybody's favorite Hawaiian, Travis Brown.
Because the
people are going to be
there.
rooting against John Jones,
Yeah.
but they
but
get to see the American hero,
I
the
think,
cowboy
Cerrone.
Cerrone.
I think you quickly go like, you know what? Forget what happened with John Jones.
If Jason Hendricks is listening to this, will you buy the card now that Cowboy Cerrone?
He's buying the card.
Tweet us out, Jason. Tag us at FiveRoundMMA. So you don't think like UFC is overcompensating now? This is a plan now. This is apologizing for all the kind of like the subpar free shows now because it's free. Deal with it. You don't watch it. You don't watch it, right?
When you're in the position that they're in, I think you can do two things. You can either milk it or you can now deliver.
Yeah. And
I think UFC is starting to realize, you know what, we have to start delivering because I think people are starting to think that we're just trying to stretch it out as much as possible.
The other thing too is I don't think the numbers were there anyway with only one big fight on these free fight cards.
I didn't see the numbers for the John Jones down at Cormier. If that wasn't like epic, it should have been over the top. Then obviously that was right because that was just the one. That whole card was just the one fight, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's not appealing to some of the people that are the casual MMA fight watchers.
Yeah.
So I think if you start stacking it, oh man, 2 title fights,
especially the pay-per-views. That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, the free shows. I mean, I think it's understandable to have good fights here and there, but these pay-per-views, I mean, this is supposed to be like your cream of the crop of the month.
Well, I think even like go back to Strikeforce and Showtime. Strikeforce had their main cards, but they also had like almost every week it's Strikeforce Challengers, where it was like up and coming guys.
Yeah,
I think it's where you first saw Ronda Rousey on the Strikeforce Challengers card, where it was
Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, it was all for the up and coming guys. So maybe that's the kind of their.
I think that's the right formula too, and I think in the long run, they'll make more money off these pay-per-view if they do stack them.
They won't charge them up now. You think like with $70 now?
And
that's the only thing. That's one thing I fear. If they bring up that price,
raise the price too. So you got to think about it. Will these guys pay? Will the casual fan pay for these pay-per-view cards? I say now they will.
I got so much subscriptions to pay for. I don't know if I can handle this pay-per-view money.
For real.
Especially if it's gonna be once a month. That's another subscription right there.
Yeah. And speaking of like these free fight card pay-per-views, you guys may ask, hey, Albert, Alex, Guillermo, what about Bigfoot versus Mir? Isn't that you guys don't talk about that? Answer is no.
No.
It's just
not only that,
it's for the casual fan too. Oh, like I know who that guy is.
It's in Brazil, right?
Yeah. No, we're not talking about it. Maybe I'll tune in. Not even next week for the results. Doesn't matter. Ain't happening here, bro.
We might do a post on Instagram.
Yeah, you might want to go to those other MMA shows. You want to hear about Bigfoot, Silva, and Frank Mir. You're gonna hear here.
Hey guys, that's what it's called.
I really think if you're in the top 10 in your weight class, you should be in the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
and anybody below that top 10 should be in these fight cards and a notable name here and there.
Yep. So I think that is it for today. Good to see Guillermo back. Contribute greatly to the podcast today. We're kind of Albert and I tend to agree a lot of things, and you're kind of the guy in the middle, kind of splits us up and kind of brings us out the disagreement in all of us, which I like it. Until then, make sure to follow us on Twitter at FiveRoundMMA. Follow us on Instagram. That's also FiveRoundMMA. Subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic. Like us on Facebook.
Check us out at
SpectrumVita.com. It's a new lifestyle, sports, entertainment, lifestyle website where you contribute to.
Yeah, if you guys kept Googling FiveRoundMMA, couldn't find our website no more, there was a reason for this. We had a bigger picture. You can now go to Spectrum Vita for all your FiveRoundMMA needs.
Yep. So, and that is it.
Thanks everybody for listening. I'd like to thank our executive producer, Guillermo Cita, who wasn't producing for a couple of weeks, but he was here.
He wasn't here, but he'll still produce.
Yeah. And our engineer over there, seeing Razzle with Razzle Records. You know we sound good when he's here, and you know when he's not here. Trust me.
Yeah.
And just thank everybody for listening.
Oh, yeah. The cream of the crop.